All right, so hey guys, today we're going over a concept that I came up with for my business and it helped me get me out of trouble multiple times. I call it the growth mode concept or framework. And what it is, it's actually a way of looking at all your expenses in a way that you can then scale back very quickly if you need to. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ivo Pertz. I'm a serial entrepreneur and a business growth specialist. And just in the past 3 years, I've helped a fintech company move up market and start selling at a 5K price point. And they had a successful 8-figure exit within 9 months. I've also helped a manufacturer set up their direct-to-consumer approach and their e-commerce platform. And within 4 months, they had plus 7% to the revenue, but also plus 15% to the profit margin, because profit margins are much higher when you're working direct to consumer. And also I've helped the SaaS companies set up their sales and retention playbooks. And one specifically, after they did that, within 9 months, they had a successful exit as well. So just to name a few of these companies, we're going along and we're sharing this knowledge and we're sharing these implementations with more businesses as we go along. So if that interests you, get in touch. And on our channel, we are explaining how to use specific strategies to grow your business, and we're sharing the knowledge and the love during these sessions and during these videos. So come and join us, and we hope you like this information. Of course, Smoothin has got everything to do with cash flow and optimizing cash flow, because we believe that's the basis of any good business. And we also want to make it easy for anybody who's looking to start a business to understand how finances work from an operational perspective, and so that it's not complex and it's very easy for you to get your business up and running. So I hope you enjoy this content. Please follow us, like, subscribe, so on and so forth. Now, I'll share a backstory with you guys why I had to create this and why this thing exists. So before I moved to Europe, to like Western Europe and these kind of things, I was living in Eastern Europe, which is a little bit different in terms of how people collaborate, work, and how the economy works in general. So there's a few key components to this, which is there's very little trust, there's very short cycles and very short relationships when it comes to actually doing business with people. So you have like 30-day termination clauses in most contracts. You prepay for most contracts. So if you want to get something, you pay up front, otherwise you don't get the service, these kind of things. So the system in itself is already set up so that you don't have these situations of going and chasing money, all of these kind of things. But also with that means, because you have these 30-day termination clauses, that means you don't really sleep soundly at night, because you don't know what the future is going to bring, because any of your customers can cancel within 30 days, right? So annual contracts are pretty much out the window. You don't really have trust in the system. You have a bunch of uncertainty. And what that means is that everybody's looking at maximizing their ROI, and everybody's looking at, things to get their money back, their investment back within a very short time scale. Most restaurants, for example, want to get their investment money back within the first year. Okay? And if it's a seasonal cafe, that's like within 6 months, something like that. So we had to come up with a strategy where we can feel safe if we get a month that's really low and all of a sudden we have minus 30% in revenue because 30% of our customers have gone on holiday and they've just canceled for that month, right? So basically I came up with a strategy where I grouped my expenses into 3 kind of categories, which are essential, supportive, and investment. So, and they all interact, right? So you have your essential things that you do and essential parts of the expenses that are there for your business. So this is anything that keeps the business going, and it's essential to keep the business going. So for example, if you're a freelancer or you're an agency that only needs people, computers, access to the internet, your essential expenses are very, very low. Though probably the biggest cost there is going to be people, because you need to keep people on the full time. You can't, it's very hard to kind of go up and down in terms of the number of hours that you need, because then you can't really forecast stable work hours in the future. So you don't need a lot, but you will need to have people. Whereas if you're like a brick and mortar place, so let's say you're a store, you're going to have the store, so the rent. You're going to have also all the stuff that's in the store, so all the goods, and then you're going to have all the other stuff that you need there, right? Like so that electricity and stuff like that. So you can't like these are the things that like without which the business does not exist. Okay, think about that from that perspective. And these are, the essential, the essential, the supportive, and the investment buckets. You can think about them as buckets, right? So you have your essential bucket, you have your supportive bucket, and you have your investment bucket. So again, going back to the essential bucket a little bit, what you want to look at and put everything in that bucket is it's just the stuff to keep my business alive. It's the, shit hits the fan scenario where basically you can look at, okay, this is the bare minimum, the bare bones that I need for this business to exist. Don't think about efficiency and all this kind of stuff. Just think about like the bare minimum, right? Then you have supportive roles. So supportive roles and supportive tools, supportive systems that you have in place, these are things that are supporting the essential thing, right? So, as an example, if you're an agency, you need to have a laptop to do your business, but you also need to have probably a monitor. You need to have, lighting if you're doing video for people. You need, equipment and all this kind of extra equipment that makes your life easier. And it makes you produce more efficiently, which means that those are productivity things, right? So think about supportive stuff as like increasing productivity. It's a benefit right now in terms like you've hit a certain level. You're like, okay, these tasks have become repetitive. I'm going to solve this through automating it. Or, if it's a task that's just annoying, like, now you have the budget to buy something and fix that and it's not annoying you anymore. So it depends it's these kind of things, but it's basically to make your life easier to do the stuff that's the essential stuff better, okay? And then the investment bucket is the bucket that we probably as entrepreneurs like the most because it's all the new stuff, right? It's the new bet, it's the new marketing channel, it's the new ad campaign, or whatever it may be. It's the new shiny thing that us as entrepreneurs were like, oh, this is going to move my needle so much, and we get so super excited. But usually these things 9 times out of 10 don't work out, and you've actually lost money and so on and so forth. So it's not a bad thing. The investment is necessary because investment is usually the way that you go through iterating and making things better, but it's a costly process, right? Most of that money is actually waste because you need to test it to see if it works. Similarly, when you probably started out a business, you had a lot of hypotheses, a lot of pitches, a lot of stuff that you were trying out. And once you've nailed it down, then it's already working, right? So the investment side is all of the new stuff where you're still calibrating or you think you can make some benefit, you can get some benefit out of it. So either saving some costs, optimizing time, getting more work done per person, or increasing revenue per person, whichever way you're looking at it, but it's something to do with that, right? So usually it's increasing productivity in one way or another. So you have to think about not only tools that you're doing, but also roles in the company. And it's going to be hard for you to do this, especially if you haven't gone through laying off co-founders and these kind of things, especially if you're a small company, because it hurts because everybody's like very closely knit together and everybody's working together, right? So, but think about it also the same way, right? You have essential roles, which without the business is not going to work without these people. And then you have supportive roles. So these are people that help people, the essential people, make their life easier or have more customers because of the supportive roles. And then you have roles which are kind of like bets on that they're going to improve something in the company, right? And once you have these 3 levels of looking at things, what can you do? You should actually create a 3-level budget based on these three things. And what that allows you to do is look at, okay, if I just keep my bare business essentials, what are the total costs for the next year? You can then benchmark that across your income and see actually how much profit you're making, right? And then you're like, okay, great, but I can't support all of these customers without the supportive roles because it's at a certain level of efficiency and this kind of stuff, right? So you won't be able to service your existing customers, probably you won't be able to service your existing customers just with the pure essential expenses. But if the times get tough and you have fewer customers, so let's say war breaks out, or a famine breaks out, I don't know, whatever, like a harsh, something very, very, very dramatic happens, right? COVID hits again. And we are basically like minus 30% customers. That means that you can drop your efficiency and your productivity by 30% to serve the 30 customers. If it's for a long time, it's a good idea to cut those costs and straight away just decrease your productivity because now you can manage that amount of customers with fewer systems, fewer tools, and fewer people maybe. So it's a way to look at things, to understand and calibrate how much of the supportive stuff you need and how much of the essential stuff you need. Then on top of that, you're like, okay, great. So this is also, and then you have your investment side, which is like, okay, these are the bets, these are the things that I'm investing in to see growth for the next year. And you can actually map that out and you can say, okay, so, last year we had this, we invested this amount. Did it make a difference? Or last quarter or for the last 6 months, we've been investing this amount. Has it moved the needle at all? And then you can understand and evaluate the investments, right? So look at these things that in that way, and then you can have 3 very cool outcomes. So the first one is, the first time you do this, what you're probably going to notice is that you're like overspending on some things and underspending on other things, and it will give you a good understanding of like how much it costs actually to retain customers and to support retention of customers, which is something that we don't talk about a lot. Most people talk about acquisition costs and lifetime value, but they never talk. Well, but for me, it's kind of funny because they never talk about, okay, apart from the acquisition cost, there's also maintenance cost, right? There's a cost associated with that customer, be it either because they're using your product and your product has like other costs associated to it, cloud infrastructure and these kind of things, or something else, like it's got, customer support hours, these kind of things. But we don't talk about that usually. So when you do it this way, what you'll be good at is understanding, okay, we have this amount of money with this amount of essential expenses and this amount of supportive roles for us to keep the amount of customers that we have right now, right? Or to keep that and a potential upsale, right? So you still have like more capacity for customers, but you wouldn't have it if you wouldn't have the supportive roles. So it's a big eye opener. Usually you find some savings or optimizations and these kind of things. The second thing that you can do, and what you'll have actually straight out of it, is plan B, because you can go back, you can scale back twice using this plan, right? You have the first layer that you can just basically cut off, which is investment, which should not, it's not going to then drive growth for you, but it shouldn't, the investment bucket is not the bucket that's keeping the customers. So it shouldn't have an impact on your retention or on your churn. Those costs are purely trying to grow the business. Okay? So if you have a downturn or if something external happens, you can like see what happens if you just take away those costs, and you don't need to revisit it again because you've already done it. You already know which ones they are. It's just quickly like looking like bang. Okay, we can go down to this level. Okay, then because you can go down to this level, what you can then also see is you have another level which is like, okay, supportive roles. Can I get rid of, what if like if the downturn is even worse than you anticipated, or the difference between what you're spending on investment is not big enough for you to reach break even or profit? So then you can go into the supportive roles and you can get rid of some supportive tools, roles, these kind of things, and it just makes your life much, much easier. So you don't need to think about it again. It's already prepared and you know what to do in a downturn. Okay. The other thing you'll have, so the third thing you'll actually have is an understanding of, so the investment part is very important because that's basically your profit. And entrepreneurs are quick to kind of reinvest in their own businesses, but sometimes, it doesn't make sense and you need to keep certain profit, right? So when you do this exercise, you'll know exactly how much of your money you're spending on investment. And just think about it this way. There is an option, and sometimes it makes sense not to spend that much in the investment and leave some profit. Or, invest in the stuff that's actually really working well and increase the budgets there. And once you've mapped it out this way, it'll be easier to see which of the investment categories or the investment strategies that you've put out there and the expenses associated with them are actually moving the needle. My top tip for you guys is to keep the payment terms with your suppliers very short. So try to work with everybody that you have with like a 30-day termination clause. Why do I say that? Because the quicker you can get rid of expenses, the better, the quicker you can stop the bleeding. And that means you have more money left over for when the storm passes to reinvest and grow again. Okay? It's helped me multiple times see for my business a V-shaped recession. So it went down, but then it went quickly up again because we managed to cut the expenses that saved us profit, which we could then keep. And then when the market was turning around, then we can invest that profit straight away into the things that we now know are driving business for us and where we know we need to invest, right? So that way, this has helped me basically weather the storm two times in one company and one time in another company. And it really, really, really helps you make quick decisions, quick turnarounds, and you don't have to spend, sleepless nights thinking about these things once they've actually happened. You're not reactive, you're proactive, and that really, really helps. And it helps with anxiety as well. So now we'll move into some advanced tips and advanced ways to look at this. So I'll explain it from an example of marketing, right? So some of you might come in and say, well, listen, how do I split up marketing? Because it's a supportive role, but it's also an investment, but it's also critical and essential for my business because without marketing, I'm not gonna be able to grow the business, right? So the way you should be looking at marketing, if you're looking at these things or thinking about these things in this way, is great. So you can actually go into all of the expenses of the marketing channels, of everything that you have under marketing, and for each expense line, put it in that relevant bucket for that department. So you look at, Facebook ads. This is something that's been running for a very long time. We know they're successful. They're bringing us leads. We're closing customers, all this kind of stuff. Essential, right? Like there's no even talking about it. This is like, that's your bread and butter. That's the way that you make money. That should stay. But you might say, well, listen, we have, supportive roles in the sense of we have like AI doing helping us with content. We have a bunch of tools that help our marketing team roll out content much quicker. These kind of things, like that's all nice and good and so on and so forth. But those are supportive roles so that you can have more productivity per person, right? If you need to decrease budgets on these kind of things, you don't need the productivity to be so high. And instead of getting rid of people, you can get rid of tools and keep the people, for example, right? And then you're going to have the investment side, which is like all the new marketing campaigns. It's the new slogans. It's the new campaign for this year. It's all the great ideas that your marketing people are going to come out with. And you're like, yeah, I want to try this and this and this and this and this. But the matter of the fact is, until those campaigns actually bring you customers, you don't know if they're going to be successful or not. So that is an investment, and that's a very simple way. It's a simplified way of looking at a specific department on how you can split those expenses for you. Okay? So once you have that, concept, you have also two other ways that you can look at in an advanced way at these things. So either you connect on the holistic view, and you have you have your essential. You have your essential, you have your supportive, you have your investment rows, and then you can connect basically which supportive expenses are connected to which essential expenses, and which investment expenses are connected to which supportive or also essential expenses. This way, you see the whole chain. And if you see the whole chain, it also opens up your mind in terms of how you need to look at specific, like what the impact will be if you get rid of one of the supporting roles. Because not for every process and not for every team it's going to be the same. So what you want to do is you want to map out what is the impact for a specific team or a specific process that I have in the company. Okay. If you do, there's another way to do it, which is you can actually make this essential, supportive, and investment framework by departments. So you could create a expense overview for your sales department, for your customer success department, for your marketing department, whatever the departments are, it doesn't matter. But if you make one specifically for each one, you can then also talk to each individual team. They can be the owners of those numbers, and you can say, listen, we're spending this much for you for your essential stuff. That's gonna stay there. We're not taking that away. Then you have the supportive roles, and then you have like, for this year, we're thinking of implementing, I don't know, a different CRM system or enriching data in the CRM system to have more to improve conversion rates, right? So you have specific bets in the department that you're willing to invest in, and then you have a specific discussion with the head of that team in terms of like, okay, we're investing this. Now you have to come back to me and show that it actually works. If it doesn't work, we're just going to cut it, right? So then you give the power to the people in their departments to actually do the stuff that they want to, that they think that they can move the needle, and you can make them accountable for that. And you have a very specific way looking at numbers. There's no hard feelings behind this. We gave it to you. We invested in your team. If it worked, great. Some things can go from next year. They can go from investment into the essential or into the supportive roles if they did a very good job, right? That's the idea. It's not that, investment, it's always going to stay there. The idea is that the stuff that you invest in, it either becomes a supportive role or then it becomes an essential part. So that's the way to think about these things if you're an advanced user, and that will help you guide your team and look at your team and have your team take responsibilities for all the things that they're using. Because sometimes we get bogged down into terms of like, we need to look at total revenue for the whole company, and if you're like in the small department, you kind of feel a little bit disconnected and you don't know like, what is it that my department can do for that. But actually, if your department becomes more efficient, all the cogs should become more efficient. So it's a great way for you to empower your people and also to give them responsibility to improve their own environments and financially sound. So win, 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 win everywhere. So that is my framework. Like I said, it's helped me tremendously. I hope you guys try this out. Look at your company finances in a new light and make smart decisions and have a plan B in your back pocket at all times and sleep sound at night and grow your business. See you in the next one. So thanks for watching. I hope you like this type of content and that this course was very helpful for you. If you want to work through these things live together with me, you have a possibility to do that. Just go to school.smoothen.ai, book an intro call, and we'll work it out. Either you go through a workshop scenario where it's a group setting, or we can do a one-on-one if you want to go into really the details of your specific business, and we can build this whole plan for you together. And so you don't have to think about these things and you don't have to think about how to implement it. We actually show you how it works, do everything for you together, and then you get all the benefits of actually implementing these strategies and looking at cash flow the way that you should be. Okay? So, catch you in the next one. Please like, subscribe, and share the video with anybody else that you know that might benefit from this type of information. See ya.